Now we get to bring up two advocates that you may know that are heroes. I've had a chance to speak with them before we were asked to be in this room. And so if I can please welcome up at this moment two advocates, Brittney Williams and Michael Belleville. Oh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I had a curtsy and a hello.
And a trip over a water bottle.
And a trip over a water bottle.
Sorry.
Life happens to the best of us.
How good does it feel to be here?
It feels really good.
Yeah?
Excited.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Fired up. Fired up. You can't help but get emotional being around this many people, all knowing that they have your back.
Yeah.
I want to start with this. As advocates, how has that helped you work through the laughs and the crying that you have had as a caregiver and now as one who is fighting Alzheimer's? We'll start with you, Brittney.
I think a lot of what helped me get through the laughs and the cries were my family. So I went to the University of Michigan, of course, I'm being extra with this pen. Go Blue. And I got there in 2005, and my junior year, my mom was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's disease. She was 49 years old. And I sort of just fell apart completely. I couldn't function, I was extremely depressed, and ended up being suspended from school and went home. Usually you sit out a semester, come back, and I ended up being gone for 4 years because I ended up being the full-time caregiver for my mom for the final years of her life. And I really had to learn, especially with my younger siblings, I'm the oldest of 6, 4 of them were still in the home, how to laugh, how to not be sad all the time, not to cry all the time. And I allowed myself space to be upset, to cry, but the laughter was what really got us through. One of my favorite memories around laughter was the first year I got back as a caregiver, Beyonce's 4 came out, and my mom was obsessed with Love on Top. And so, any time that she was ready to fight me, wanted to not shower, was interested in wearing a shirt for the 13th time, I would play this song and she would just kind of start two-stepping. And so one day we were in the grocery store and it came on over the PA and she just broke out into this whole choreographed thing and and we're in the pasta aisle and this lady is just I'm just trying to get some fettuccine. I don't know what this lady is doing, but it made me, that was probably my favorite thing.
Were you laughing?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
When did you learn to laugh? Because that's a tough point. Were you finally accepting?
I think I learned to laugh maybe about 7 months or so in, because my mother was so different from who she actually was as a person.
Yeah. In
a lot of ways, when she started becoming combative, she was super, super sweet and would always tell me how much she loved me. And there was one day, and you wouldn't think that someone would laugh at this, but there was one day that I was trying to get her dressed and she was just not into it. And she was she wanted to wear, I needed her to wear the shirt because the other one was dirty. And she was like, but I want to wear that one because it's mine and it's beautiful and I don't like you. And I was just and I just busted out laughing because it was so not her. It was just funny. So I don't like you and I don't need you here. I said, okay. All right.
Mike, when do you laugh? When do you smile?
When I see my grandkids, obviously. Spend as much time with them as possible. But I also get tremendous joy being with what I call my Alzheimer's family. And that's my friends, Steve and Judy and everybody else that I'm associated with at my local chapter, as well as my new family that I've been fortunate to be on the early stage advisory group. We just went out the other night and enjoyed each other's company, had dinner, and afterwards we went out for a nightcap, and we just laughed in tears, talking about the things that we go through on a daily basis. And you just, like somebody said, you have to laugh at these things.
But in the beginning, you didn't.
Absolutely not. It took
the
a
beginning
long
was the
time.
exact opposite.
It was the complete opposite.
Tell me about that briefly when you first learned.
When I first learned, when I heard the word dementia or younger onset Alzheimer's, I tell people I crawl under a rock, literally for about 5 or 6 months. I was very active in my community. I was a vice chair of my school committee. I was on town capital improvement committee, my town democratic committee. I was an avid hobbyist photographer. I used to jump in my car, just go out, take pictures. All those things came to an abrupt halt. And I obviously went into a depression. And after, I think, 5 or 6 months, luckily for me, my beautiful wife of 36 years next month.
Where is she?
She's right here. She was like, enough is enough. We need to do something about this. And she called the Alzheimer's Association.
Yeah.
And thank God for that call, because I honestly tell people they saved my life. Now, obviously, they couldn't physically, but they pulled me out of that depression. They made me realize that I still have a voice. I still have something to give. I can still learn. I can still contribute. And for as long as I have my voice, I'm going to use it, and hopefully in a positive way. The other thing I wanted to say before I forget, and because we hear the word caregiver a lot.
That's not a joke, is it?
This isn't a joke. No. There's no way I could upstage you on a joke.
No, that was it right there. I think you did it.
You were great. We hear the word caregiver a lot, and I like to use a different terminology. And the reason is people that are living with this disease are losing a piece of ourselves every single day. But I think what's not being told enough is that the people who love us the most, the people who are taking care of us the most, are also losing a piece of themselves every single day. So I like to use the word life giver. Because they're giving up their lives to take care of us. I mean, in my opinion, anybody can be a caregiver, but God gave us life givers to take care of us.
Not bad, huh, Brittney? Yeah. Annie curtsied.
I'm done. I gotta go.
Yeah. Should you and I get off the stage now?
Yeah.
All right. What was sort of the stigma? You described the happy time when you laughed when your mom was dancing. There's a point also that we go through. We're going to get to you on this, Mike. The stigma that you feel, like for me, if I'm walking my father down the street and people are, and my dad's reacting with their pets or the children, and there's that, when we first start doing that, it's a little like, oh, tell me about that stigma. And in a way you kind of feel, tell me how you went through that.
It was really hard because, like I said, when my mom was diagnosed, she was 49. And when I came home, she was 52. And so I think in many ways, when it comes to some of the behaviors that come with Alzheimer's disease, people can be a little more gracious when they see them coming from older adults. And so when you have somebody who's 52 years old that is being combative in the grocery store, that is, wandering out of the house for the 12th time and kind of walking through the street, or saying random things to people's children, like, it was really difficult. And I found myself apologizing a lot. And at a certain point, I got really, really angry. I think that early in the diagnosis, like, there was a lot of sadness because you have to accept, and it's hard. And in many ways, I refuse to accept, which is why I'm here. You accept that someone is going to die, that there is no cure, there is no treatment, there's no way of slowing it down. You have to accept that, and that really, really hurt, but it's driven my fight after losing my mother. But you have to accept that, and I was really, really sad, and then I got really angry because there's no fixing it. There's nothing I could do. I felt powerless. And then on top of that, I had people who were constantly judging my mother, who was one of the most loving beautiful, caring people you will ever meet in your life. And that was really, really painful. But I think that once the shift happened where we were able to laugh, I stopped apologizing. Like, yes, you think this is weird, and I don't care. My mom is amazing. Even with the behaviors that she's exhibiting now, even as we lose her to this disease, she is still someone that I admire and love and aspire to be 1/27th of the woman she was. And so I stopped apologizing. But for a while, it was really, really difficult to let go of that feeling that I needed to tell people sorry or constantly explain myself. It was exhausting.
Mike, you've got to take on that stigma directly. It's not like you wear a T-shirt that says, I have the dementia-related disease. You don't do that.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you deal with that.
It can be challenging, especially because God's allowed me to still be able to communicate. I was diagnosed 3.5 years ago. My diagnosis was changed from younger onset Alzheimer's last year to Lewy body dementia. But people look at you and say, what's Lewy body? And that's another whole other conversation. But the stigma with it is the first thing you get, and I can guarantee you, everyone here living with dementia has heard this. You don't look like you have dementia. You don't sound like you have dementia. And my first response is, well, what does dementia look like? What does dementia sound like?
Yeah.
What they don't see are the cognitive challenges, the executive function challenges, the multitasking. They don't see the things they used to be able to do.
Yeah.
They just see the person in front of them talking to them now. So I try to use it as an opportunity to educate them and tell them what the challenges are of a person who's living with dementia, and hopefully eliminate as much of that stigma as possible. When people hear the word Alzheimer's or dementia, the first thing they think of is that's an old person's disease. And they don't realize that there's 250,000 of us under the age of 65 who are being yanked out of the workforce, who are being affected by this disease. So again, I try to use it as an education opportunity to talk to them and explain to them what dementia really is. And it's not end stage. People who have dementia, especially in the early stages, still can live a meaningful, purposeful, engaged life.
So there are those. To both of you on this, sometimes you don't have the time to have that conversation.
Right.
You don't have a flyer that you're going to give out as you're walking by either. But it's a look in the face. What's the look in the face you give back to let them know?
Well, sometimes I try to laugh. I do try to laugh. But at the same time, I'm like, if you only knew. Okay, if you only knew. Like somebody else had explained, one of my friends from the early stage advisory group, come spend a day with me. Come with me and walk in the mall and watch with me, watch me try to find my car. I had an experience just recently where my son and I went to Home Depot. He waited out in the parking lot. I came out looking for him, and I walked right past the car because I didn't recognize the car. I didn't recognize what I was supposed to be looking for. And it was, I went back and forth 2 or 3 times. And to get them to try to see that moment, try to explain to them that moment of what that feels like, can be hard. But hopefully, you get past that.
What's great about what you both said is you described that point when you evolved into laughter. Not that this is a funny manner, but some parts of it can cause you to laugh, and we need to accept that. And because it's actually some amazing times when you get to that point. You saw the folks walking by when you're with your mom, taking her for a walk, or you're out shopping. What was the look you would give back to say, whatever it was?
I have to do it. Okay. So
no hand gestures allowed here.
Oh, yeah.
Only the face.
I'll keep it cute. I mean, one of the ideals of my sorority is finer womanhood, so I'll keep it polite. But, so we're walking out, and so you look at me and I say, Hi. Like, that was kind of my thing. Like, hi, can I help you? I'm doing a thing. My mom isn't well.
Yeah.
Go buy peanut butter. Leave me alone. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's my thing.
Mine is a smile, like, how are you, with a nod, like, I know, you know what I know. And I don't even know if they know that. But because you only got that 2 seconds, right?
Seconds, right. 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. So
Right.
that's it. Mike, your son, tell me about how he has given you strength in what you're doing now.
That's a great question. Our son also has his own challenges. He has Asperger's syndrome, part of the autism spectrum. So there's a lot of things that he doesn't totally understand, he doesn't get. I had an experience the other day where I was talking to somebody on the phone, and he was trying to show me what he wanted to have for lunch, with the pizza and what all the toppings were. And he's trying to stick it in my face. And I'm trying to talk on the phone. He doesn't understand that I can only focus on one thing at a time. And I was like...
That's because you're a man.
It's because I'm a guy. It's true. The secret's out, John.
I could. I guess I could.
You know how long
help myself.
You know how long I've been using that excuse?
Yeah, right. No. You and me both.
But the point was, he looked afterwards, he says, can't you read, something and talk on the phone at the same time? And I was like, no, I can't. I can't do that anymore. So, we tried to have a conversation on what it's like. But he does give me strength in knowing that, he's gonna be there for my wife. We also have two beautiful younger daughters. I mean, they're older than he is, both married. But knowing that he's going to be there to take care of her when I can't gives me a lot of peace. And I don't know that you can really put a price on that, like what you do for your dad and what you do for your mom. That means more to us living with the disease, knowing that somebody's still going to be there for them. That's priceless.
Brittney, you've talked about and written about in many different places about how, well, what you were saying earlier, Mike, what does a person look like that has dementia? and that there are all sorts of different faces, heights and shapes, and tell me about this panoply of who we all are as a family living with Alzheimer's. What are the points you normally make?
I think you answered your own question. It's everybody. And I think that that's what is sometimes forgotten, that it's a sad unifier, but anyone can be affected by Alzheimer's disease. And my mother being diagnosed so young, I think, is a way that people were able to wake up to that where age is concerned. And a lot of what I tend to write about is one around age, where one of the first things I learned when the Alzheimer's Association started training me as an advocate is that Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of aging, and also that younger folks are able to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And so I really focus on that. I think I also try to do a lot of work around diversifying what people think about in terms of race, socioeconomic status, attractionality and sexuality, because there's, in the research world, which I have a huge gripe with, there's sort of like this singular person that we use, which tends to be white men, to apply across the board, like what our interventions look like and what research results look like, and that needs to be diversified. And so in particular with the Black community, where we're twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease, and recent research is also showing that Black folks tend to have different pathologies. So in addition to having Alzheimer's pathologies, they're also more likely to additionally have Lewy body pathology and infarcts on the brain. And so when we're not focusing on that and at the same time saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe, this disproportionate diagnosis, what's going on here, like that's not okay. So I've done a lot of pushing, and I'm sure that the folks at Nationals are like, girl, relax. But like I know Randy is tired of me. Yeah.
Give him the look.
No, John,
Give him the look.
no, John is tired of me. Literally last year, I ran up on Harry like, hello, I have concerns. Yeah. And so I think that the association is doing a great job of expanding out to communities and especially marginalized communities to help people better understand that everybody can be affected and that everybody needs the help.
Quickly talk about youth caregivers,
yes.
millennial caregivers.
Yes.
Also not what pops into your mind. Teenage caregivers.
Yeah. So when my mom was diagnosed in 2008, I was 20, and my siblings were 17, 11, 10, and 9-year-old twins. And my mom was sick for 5 years before she passed away. So when you think about that age, I was being annoying and asking for allowance money. And my siblings are, they had my mom's medication regimen down to a T. They were intervening when she began to seize toward the end of the disease. The things they were doing were phenomenal to me. And so I finished up school at U of M. I graduated last year, and now I'm in the Master's of Social Work program and waitlisted, keep your fingers crossed for me, for the PhD program in the School of Social Work. Thank you. And so I'll find out by April 15th. But when I wrote my...
1,300 letters right now.
If you know somebody, then know somebody.
Yeah.
But when I wrote my academic statement of purpose, I really focused on the fact that there is a huge gap in the literature around child caregiving. So initially, caregiving was very focused on baby boomer generation. People were taking care of their parents. Now, recently, we're starting to see research on millennials. But there's nothing that says, what does it mean when you're 12 years old and your mom is diagnosed with early onset? What does it mean in a multi-generational family when grandma lives at home and you love her with all your heart and you don't understand as an 8-year-old, what's going on and why she doesn't know who you are? And so what I want to do within my research is find out how children are psychosocially affected by having to take on these caregiving roles and having in many ways to reverse roles with their parents, and what that does in terms of caregiving burden, in terms of stress, but also how that creates resilience in those children. And so sociologically, I want to look at that around family things, and then on the social work side, look at what sort of specific interventions we can use to be of better assistance to child caregivers.
A lot of good stuff, yeah. How many millennial caregiver advocates do we have in the room right now? Can you raise your hands?
Whoop, whoop.
Where are you going to be meeting them later?
At the hotel bar, of course.
Oh, okay, all right.
We deserve.
All right. Edit that out. Or maybe don't. I don't know. Mike, when you are asked this common question, how are you doing? What is because it's in passing, you could be in the elevator or you're walking down the hall. Mike, how you doing? Mm-hmm. And there's one way of answering, well, thank you. Mm-hmm. There's the other one where you spend 30 seconds and try to make a difference, right? Mm-hmm. Give me the 30 seconds trying to make a difference.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I tell them I'm doing great. And I've been given an opportunity to try to make a difference in other people's lives. One of my favorite quotes, I apologize if I have to look at my phone to get it, because I don't want to mess it up.
You're a good journalist. You're making
sure
to get the words right.
Right. One of my favorite quotes is by the late, great Jackie Robinson, and it says, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." So I try to remember that as much as I can. And the other thing I tell them is I love movies. One of my favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption. And my favorite person in there is Morgan Freeman, and he has a line in there that he quotes Timothy Robbins, and it says, "Get busy living or get busy dying." And thanks to my wife and my friends in the Alzheimer's Association and everybody else, I've chosen to continue to get busy living.
You got asked the same question. How's your mom doing? How are you doing? I'm doing fine, thank you. But then there's a 30 seconds, I'm going to make a difference right now and help.
Yeah, I mean, when I got asked that, it was really difficult because the progression of the disease, like, no one ever gets better. I think now, having lost my mother, what I tend to focus on is how I'm doing in terms of making it better for other folks who are currently dealing with the disease. And so I just kind of share a bit of my story, very compact because it's super long, and just say, you know, did you know, and kind of run down statistics and say, this is why I do what I do, and if you ever want to be of help to me in this cause, here's how you can get involved.
We've got to finish now. So when I talk to friends or family members, I don't know what this is. I'm always trying to think, what can I tell them to get them on board? How do I get them on the stage, right? How do I get them in the boat? Mm-hmm. You've done this a lot as advocates. Mm-hmm. Give me your 30-second, I'm getting you on the boat with me and we're paddling down, we're going up this river together.
I'll go for it. When I'm talking to especially a member of Congress or a senator or anybody else who might just have questions, I like to tell them I don't think that it's a mistake that Democrats are represented by blue and Republicans are represented by red, because if you mix the two colors together, what do you get? Purple. And that's what it's going to take to help find a cure for this disease. If I'm talking to a congressman specifically who's already on board with us, and I'm fortunate to live in Massachusetts where they're already signed up, co-sponsored everything, I'm asking them to reach across the aisle to their colleagues to help them, bring them on board as well, that they may have questions or doubts, and hopefully that they can help clarify those questions or doubts. And if I can do that with anybody else walking on the street, I do that. I mean, I have a tattoo. It's the Alzheimer's logo, and underneath it, it says, "Live life today." So it's, I got that the day after I stopped work and the day after I retired. But it's a great conversation starter. So if anybody wants to do that, just get a tattoo. Works great.
It's Mike's Tattoo Parlor in southern Massachusetts, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right next to Brittney's research center.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
I think for me, the best way I've been able to get people on board is focusing on powerful but painful moments. And so most recently, I became a member of my sorority, Zeta Phi Beta, in November, and my mother was a member, and she would have been over the moon. But having her not be able to be the person who pinned me, to help initiate me, was painful. In July of 2014, my mom passed in October of 2013. So July of 2014, my sister got married. There was an empty chair at the wedding. My sister had her sweet 16 11 days after burying our mother. So those sort of, that pain, and saying to people, like, that hurts, and that is something that I don't want other people to experience, usually gets people on board, because they're just like, wow, I can't believe that your siblings had to go through that, or your family had to go through that. What can I do?
And as I said earlier, your mother is certainly proud of you as she watches you do all this. Certainly is. Brittney, thank you so much. Mike, thank you so much. Fantastic conversation.